Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trep Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome Parker Garlitz to the show. Parker is one of the co founders of True Leaf Market. True Leaf Market is an independent seed company offering heirloom, non GMO, and organic seeds. And they also offer growing supplies and starter kits. And today I'm going to ask Parker a few questions about his entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much, Parker. Really, really appreciate you joining me today at Trip Talks.
Thank you so much for having me.
So your business is such an interesting business. Every time I am interviewing a new entrepreneur, most of the times I come across businesses that I personally think, I would have never thought about starting this business. And it seems like your business is doing really well. So for anybody who does not understand about your industry, your business, can you please give a little bit of an introduction of what products you're selling and what kind of um, market you're serving?
Yeah, so we're an independent seed company. So we focus on the non-GMO market, which includes mostly like heirloom seeds, but can also include hybrids. Hybrids are not GMO. GMO means gene edited in the laboratory. Hybrids are naturally cross-pollinated. So that really is our space, mostly in the open-pollinated heirloom seed space. And we sell seeds to both wholesale and retail, to the home garden seed industry, to home gardeners. We sell to microgreens growers and sprouting growers, indoor gardeners, hobbyists. That's kind of our market.
So when you say non-GMO, does that mean that these are really the organic, like as organic as one can get in terms
These
of?
are Yes, these are so the term really is open pollinated, and what that
Okay.
means is that these seeds are naturally pollinated, through natural means, insects, etc. Birds, that kind of thing, hummingbirds, and the pollination results in a future crop, and the future crop has the same characteristics as last year's crop, right? So GMO seeds are seeds that have been gene edited in a laboratory or patented, and those are typically sold to large agricultural concerns. So we sell to the home market, right?
Okay.
Predominantly, and small professional growers.
And in terms of yields, what is the differentiation? Like, are the GMO seeds supposed to give? I'm assuming, like, with these seeds, people are trying to get some sort of a fruit or some sort of a vegetable or plant, or trying to get some sort of an edible product out of it. And what is the difference between these kind of naturally pollinated seeds versus a GMO? Would there be, is one better than the other?
Well, I mean that question starts to get a little bit politically charged, and it depends who you are, what you think. You know, at the end of the day, we're not on an anti-GMO crusade, but we believe people ought to have a choice, and if they want non-genetically modified seeds, they should be able to get those, and that's what we offer predominantly. I think the goal of a GMO is to scientifically edit the genes of a particular crop, say corn or soy or wheat, in order to produce a variety of that particular crop that has desirable features. Maybe it's drought resistance, maybe it's very high yielding, maybe it's a disease resistance or some type of aspect like that. Sometimes those types of features can be done through natural cross-pollination, right? And hybridization over decades, right? You go back and read about Gregor Mendel, right? Kind of the father of modern genetics. And he did his genetic work by experimenting with garden seeds, peas, right? So a lot of the goal of natural hybridization is to produce an improved crop. And what GMOs do is use science to take a shortcut and potentially jump forward, potentially dozens or hundreds of generations in terms of the types of super crops that you might get.
Now, I have in the past read or heard somewhere that the crops or the vegetables and fruits that we eat these days, or the kind of fruits that one would get in like a regular grocery store, the nutrition value of these foods, which are generally like the GMO grown items, it's much lower than what the regular or organic plant would have produced. Like, I think 50 years ago, they say that the nutrition of eating, some of the regular fruits versus today, it's like there's a lot of difference in terms of nutritional value. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I'll give you my opinion on that. And I don't think it's so much to do with GMO versus non-GMO as much as it has to do with how food production land is fertilized, right? So if you look at human nutrition, right, we need vitamins and minerals. Well, how many minerals are there that are essential to human health? Well, you can argue that the number's up in the 50s and 60s, right? Including a lot of trace minerals like vanadium and chromium and selenium and molybdenum and some of those types of minerals. Well, in the United States, at least, for the past easily now 100 years, right, industrial agricultural crops have been fertilized with NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. Those three minerals will provide a crop everything the crop needs to grow big and produce a high yield, which is what growers want, right? They want to be able to sell by the pound and produce very large yield of fruits and vegetables, and NPK fertilizer does that. Well, what has been missing, this is my opinion, right, from commercial agriculture is trace mineral fertilization. Well, I think Fritz Haber synthesized ammonia in order to make synthetic fertilizer possible, which arguably has fed billions of people, right? A hugely important scientific breakthrough. And that was 100 years ago. So for 100 years, crops have been fertilized with synthetic NPK, right? But has any vanadium or chromium been put back into the soil? Probably not, right? So personally, I'm an advocate of using a trace mineral fertilizer. It's not really technically a fertilizer, it's a supplement, right? A soil additive to re-add trace minerals back into gardening. And we sell a product called Azomite, among some others, that is designed to reintroduce trace minerals, right, back into home gardens.
Okay, that's really interesting. So coming back to your business, I mean, as I said, this is a very interesting business. How did you get the idea? Did you have like more of a farming kind of a background, so you already knew about this area, and it made sense for you to start it? Or can you share a little bit about your how you came up with the idea, or if you're a group of co-founders, and
Yeah,
what really motivated you to start this business?
you bet. Well, my background is certainly not farming or agriculture. My background is e-commerce. So I started personally, I started in business in 1990, and I started a small business remanufacturing toner cartridges and repairing laser printers, local service business. And then one weird coincidence led to another. And with a partner, I ended up starting one of the first dial-up internet service providers in our area in 1993, and grew that business up to a point in 1998 where we sold that dial-up internet business. But in the process, I started experimenting with e-commerce. So still was running that printer repair business. And I had come into a supply of used Next laser printers, right? If you remember the computer company Next, kind of Steve Jobs in between startup after he left Apple and before he came back to Apple. So I had a bunch of Next laser printers, and I listed them for sale on the Usenet portion of the internet. Not very popular these days compared to the World Wide Web, but I listed them for sale in a used equipment marketplace in the Usenet. And my first laser printer I sold to somebody in Portugal, which in 1995 was fairly mind-blowing for me. So at that point, I got kind of bit by the e-commerce bug and built my first website selling toner and printer supplies online. And started, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to promote a website, how to get traffic and visibility and make online sales. And our printer business really kind of morphed into an e-commerce business, much more so than a local business. And at that point, my little sister was graduating from high school and was getting ready to go to college. And she approached me, this would have been the year 2000, and said, "Hey, I am really interested in this whole e-commerce thing, and you look like you know what you're doing. Would you help me start a business?" And I said, "Well, why don't we do it together? Let's start a business together." And so we brainstormed and we decided to promote something that she was very passionate in. And my sister is a vegan and a committed, kind of a committed vegan with a focus on living in raw foods, right? So kind of a hardcore aspect of being a vegan. And at the time, she was really into wheatgrass, if you know what that is, growing and juicing wheatgrass. And so we decided that we would set up a website and offer wheatgrass growing kits and juicers online. And I thought maybe if we'd run this business right and grow it and promote it properly, maybe it'll do, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month in revenue. And it would be enough to get my sister through college, which was kind of the goal, right? And lo and behold, everything I've done on purpose wasn't as successful as the thing I did kind of as an afterthought, right? So that business in short order, it only took us 3 or 4 months to achieve kind of that $5,000, $8,000 a month revenue run range, and it seemed like we still had a crazy amount of headroom. So we started expanding the website into lots of other living foods. We had indoor herb growing kits and some herb gardening seeds. We had tofu making kits. We had sprouting supplies to grow your own, like alfalfa sprouts kind of thing. And by the time we were 15 years down the road, we had a business with a 15,000 square foot building and 24 employees. And I had to quit everything else I was doing on the side. I was doing a lot of e-commerce consulting. I quit doing that to go back and help run that business. And then it was about that point that my sister had her, I'm trying to think, was it fourth? Yeah, it must have been fourth child. She was pregnant with her fourth child. And she said, "Hey, I really can't contribute as much to the business anymore." So it was a big enough business that I couldn't run it by myself. And I'm not an operations guy, right? I'm much more of an e-commerce, marketing kind of mindset. So we decided we would look around for a potential buyer for the business and ended up talking to one of our suppliers, a company called Mountain Valley Seed. At the time, we were based in Springville, Utah. They were based in Salt Lake City. They were one of our suppliers. And they were interested. And as we got to talking, we felt like, might be a better fit for us to merge and create a new company instead of having them just buy our company. And I was still very eager and excited about the potential of the business. So long story short, in 2014, our company, Living Whole Foods, which was wheatgrasskits.com, was our flagship website. We merged with Mountain Valley Seed Company. So True Leaf kind of brought the specialty seed side of the business, the wheatgrass, the grains, the microgreens, the sprouts, and Mountain Valley brought the traditional gardening seed space. So we merged in 2014. And when we merged, we maybe had 30 employees total would be my guess. Something at 30, maybe 40. And today we're about 200. So so we created True Leaf Market. That was the new entity, from the two merged companies, and the two merged companies have roots that go way back quite a bit further than that. Mountain Valley Seed was founded in 1974, and True Leaf, Living Whole Foods, my sister and I acquired a company called Handy Pantry in 2006, and that company had also been founded in 1974. So even though True Leaf has only been around officially since 2014, we have roots. See what I did there? They go all the way back to 1974. So that's kind of the story of the business. And my sister has a lot of growing and gardening expertise. She's done a lot of seed production herself. My two partners are great operations guys. We have two horticulturalists in the business. We have a full-time seedsman who is one of the partners of our business, and a professional plant breeder. We've got a lot of seed industry expertise, but none of that resides in me. I'm the market.
Well, so I definitely want to come back to that. But before that, is this right now, is this 100% e-commerce business, or do you also have retail locations, brick and mortar?
Yeah, we're predominantly an e-commerce business. Our only quote unquote brick and mortar business is our kind of walk-in will call showroom. And it's not even a showroom. We do have some local customers that come in to place an order, but most people place an order online. And if they want to, save a little money or get it real fast, they can come and pick it up at our warehouse. But that really only applies to local. We do some traditional old-fashioned sales reps, working with buyers, purchasing managers, POs on our wholesale side. But most of our orders, most of our business is really a direct-to-consumer e-commerce business. Okay.
So coming back to the point that you are really the e-commerce person, if you go back to the mid 1990s, or even 2000 or early 2000s, right? Those were really the Wild West days of early e-commerce. And it seems like you got in on e-commerce really, really early. And if you think about it, if I think about e-commerce today, I think if I could go back 15 years back and start an e-commerce business, by this time I've, probably dominate the industry that I'm in, really be the big player. But you were in that place. So, first you had your ink and cartridge business, and then you got into this business. Can you remember that time when, in late 1990s or early 2000s, what were the big challenges at that time? Because, if you think about Amazon and what Jeff Bezos has been done, it's really just capitalize on, because there wasn't really any competition, and in the world, the world was an open place. Internet was new, and e-commerce was bound to become big. What I would ask is, why did you not think about taking that ink and cartridge business, adding other product line, just doing what Amazon did? They started out with books and just expanded into everything. What were the challenges and big things, and marketing wise, e-commerce wise, that you were facing around that time, that did not help you really grow with e-commerce?
Yeah, I would say that from my point of view, and take it with a grain of salt, because I've done it for so long, I really kind of know what I'm doing, and I like to think I'm fairly good at what I do. That being said, today it feels so much easier to launch and scale and run a business e-commerce than it was years and years ago. Like when we started wheatgrasskits.com, what options did we have to promote that business? Well, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no Twitter, there was no social media, right? So that wasn't an option. When we started in 2000, Google was brand new. And at that time, the big search engine was still Yahoo. And search engines like AltaVista and some of those others still had a decent amount of market share. And nobody really knew or was too worried about, this upstart called Google. And at that time, Google had only had a paid search option, which back in that time period was a CPM model, which was horrible, right? Google's first attempt at paid search, in my opinion, was not good. They improved it over time. But the only real option we had to promote our website, other than organic SEO, was and doing some, trying to get some links from, natural foods type portals and blogs and those types of things, which were very rare, very few. The only option we really had was a paid search service called Overture. And Overture isn't even around anymore. Overture was an independent kind of a paid search bidding marketplace, and they would partner with other search engines like Yahoo and AltaVista and others and get their search results at the top of those search engines. But their system was really very, very primitive compared to how Google operates today. Google's very sophisticated. And the amount of people who were purchasing online was very small. So our ability to scale that business into, whether it was the toner business or whether it was the wheatgrass business, our ability to scale that was fairly limited, right? Today, there are hundreds of ways to promote a website. And there are companies that have taken a single approach, like maybe an ambassador program, or have used affiliates very effectively. We try to do a full court press and use, we advertise on Bing paid search, we advertise on Google in all of their options, their display, their search, their shopping portal, and their and YouTube. We advertise aggressively and try to have a presence on all social media. We do email marketing and all these types of marketing that really didn't exist or weren't reliable enough to be successful back in those early days, right? And of course, today, anybody can start a small business if you've got a good product and you've got good margins and you can offer it at a fair price. You can start on third-party marketplaces like Etsy or eBay or Walmart or Amazon. And those options weren't really available, right? We started selling in Amazon, I think, around 2003 when Amazon introduced their marketplace program. And even then, it was very minimal. The amount, back in 2000, 2003, most people still thought of Amazon as a bookstore. And the idea that you would go there to buy a wheatgrass growing kit or to buy seeds or a juicer, most people weren't looking for those types of things at Amazon at that time, right? So I would say it's much easier today to market, grow, and promote a business than it used to be. Did that answer the question you're looking for? Or you're looking for
I think so. And I also understand in those times, e-commerce, people did not really probably have the trust factor. They didn't know that if they're going to pay money online, what's going to happen? Can they trust the company and things? So I think there had to be a certain combination of things coming together, as you said, marketplaces, search engines, the marketing, paid marketing models, a lot of the trust e-commerce platforms to e-commerce to really take off. So yeah, I mean, definitely understand the challenges at that point. In terms of your product itself, the different seeds, I know you mentioned that you have a lot of different kinds of experts in this area, but are these seeds, is this something that your company grows in-house, or is this something that you purchase from other manufacturers and it's, you're reselling them? How does that business model work?
Yeah, great question. So starting out years ago, we were purchasing seed from basically brokers and distributors who would buy from growers, right? But today we do a whole lot of our own direct seed production, not 100%. I don't think that's possible, right? But we have a production facility in the Central Valley in California, and we grow, it's probably not an exaggeration to say 1,000 tons or more a year of our own seed. And that really only covers maybe a third of our varieties. So the rest of the varieties of seed that we sell, we either contract with growers in other places in the United States, or we do contract internationally. We have growers in Chile, we have growers in Brazil, we have growers in China, not too many, but we have a few. We have growers in Italy and the Netherlands and France and Poland and other places internationally, where we'll contract with growers and they will clean the seed and send it to us. And in other cases, we buy seed from the broker and distributor market, still like we did, years and years and years and years ago. So a combination of all the above in order to meet the needs of our, supply chain.
So, is there any seed that is really unique, or, I mean, everything that you know about working, in this business so far, a layperson like me that doesn't know anything about seeds, is there anything that would surprise me? Is there any seed that has like magical properties that I should know about?
Oh, I don't know. I would say, interest in certain types of things comes and goes, right? Like I remember, maybe back in 2010 or 2011, I think Dr. Oz or one of the television health gurus, it might have been Oprah Winfrey, somebody did a show or a program about, how good black soybeans are for you. And we sold out of black soybeans in about 4 hours. And there was a national shortage of black soybeans for, the next 6 or 8 months. We've seen moringa seed be very popular. We've seen broccoli go in and out of popularity. And we don't really take a strong stand and try to really promote the health claims or specific health claims of one type of seed over another. I think our contention would be, look, anytime that you're growing your own food, whether it's for health purposes, whether it's just for a hobby gardener, whatever it might be, there's just so many benefits that come from that. You get the benefit of eating fresh, live, whole foods, and you kind of reconnect to the land. In a modern society, most of us are so disconnected from our own food supply, right? There's something, sounds a little bit corny to say it, and it is, but it isn't, right? There's something deeply spiritual about growing and producing and eating your own food. It's a connection that our ancestors, was so routine for them. They didn't think about how it would be if that was missing. And for us, we don't think about what it would be like to have that, but it's a beautiful thing. So we don't care what you grow. We just want everybody to experience the joy of growing. And to that, we've created solutions that allow for indoor countertop growing of things like sprouts and microgreens and maybe an indoor herb garden. Also, in traditional outdoor gardening or patio container gardening, all of those things, right? We want to provide opportunities for everybody to feel the joy of growing things.
That's awesome. Given that you are the e-commerce expert, are you using Shopify, or can you share a little bit about, how has your e-commerce strategy evolved over time? Were you using like a different platform before? Now you're in a different platform, and
you bet. So our first website on wheatgrasskits.com started out with just some vanilla hosting, and we had a back-end e-commerce, kind of a bolt-on e-commerce solution that was actually based out of Australia. And if you went back to that time period in the late 90s, early 2000s, there weren't very many really good kind of what I would call out of the box e-commerce platforms. And I have used a dozen. And currently we are hosted on Shopify, and we have multiple websites. We've got, one flagship website, which is trueleafmarket.com. But I gotta tell you, I'm not a paid spokesperson for Shopify, but I'm a fan. I really like Shopify. They have a wonderful ecosystem. It makes things 100 times easier than it was years and years and years ago. And, there's very little that we want to do that we can't do on the Shopify platform quickly and easily. Now, that being said, if anybody from Shopify is listening, I've got about 10 things that I would recommend that need improvement, but that's a fairly minor complaint. I'm a big fan of Shopify. It makes things very, very easy compared to the good old days.
Now, you did mention that you have other websites also. Are they sister websites selling the same thing?
Yeah, they're kind of part of the process. Back in the early 2000s, Google's organic ranking would tend to favor specialty websites a little bit over a general website. So there was a time in 2015 when we maybe had a dozen websites. We had herbkits.com and growingmicrogreens.com and handypantry.com and wheatgrasskits.com and mountainvalleyseed.com and bloommaster.com and others, right? Since then, we've tried to consolidate all those sites down into a single site. Google's algorithms don't really favor specialty targeted sites as much as they used to. So we've and it's hard to promote a dozen websites. But we do have a couple of other websites. Some of them are from companies that we've acquired, and we just haven't collapsed them into our single website strategy yet. And we do have a wholesale ordering portal that's for our wholesale customers, and we don't promote it. It's an order taking website as opposed to a get visibility and bring people in type of website. So really, if you boil it down, we're really a two website company. We have a direct to commerce, e-commerce. We have a back end wholesale portal, which is again just an order taker for our customers, and everything else is just in transition until it gets merged into our True Leaf Market site.
Okay. Now, I think in the recent times you hear so much about personalization. You want to personalize the customer journey and all these buzzwords. Are you using any sort of and now, of course, now you hear about the whole new ecosystem, which I think is coming with the AI and everything. What kind of, are you using any sort of like fancy technology on your website that is, that customizes the user experience for individual users or segments of users? Or is it completely, the customer gets on the site because it's such a targeted market, they know what they're looking for, or they're already familiar with, different kind of seeds and things like that. So they don't need that kind of personalization or customized user journey.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it's a difficult question not to answer, but it's a difficult question to get this right. If I was going to give advice to Shopify, I would want them to put a lot more emphasis on speed, right? Because, in the world of e-commerce, speed is everything. And the double-edged sword of what Shopify has created in terms of their ecosystem is they've created a system where you can do a whole lot of things inside of Shopify. A lot of those things are accomplished with third-party add-ins, right? They've got a massive marketplace where, any idea that you've ever heard of on something to make a website cool or add some cool functionality, it's there and available. Well, the temptation is to say, oh yeah, I'm going to do personalization. I'm going to do subscriptions. I'm going to do reviews. I'm going to do, built-in AI customer service, and I'm going to have all these plugins and functionality on the website. And they do add functionality at the expense of speed, right? So every time we put something else in Shopify, yeah, we're getting functionality, but we're also getting speed. And the goal is to have both, right? So we have loaded our website with features and plugins to the point that we feel like we can't put any more on without, really bogging the site down more than is acceptable. So up until now, we have not used the personalization engine, but I am currently looking at a couple of personalization options, some AI personalization. Now, here's kind of what we've done. We've taken our website and moved it over to a headless e-commerce structure, which is kind of cutting edge, and Shopify does support that, but not as well as we would have hoped, right? And again, not a knock on Shopify. You got to understand, I'm a huge fan, right? But it felt like we were doing some headless things that they weren't able to help us or advise us or support us. Eventually, they'll be able to do that. And it's been kind of a journey standing up the headless version of our site. So we actually stood it up twice and backed off while we tried to solve some problems that became clear after we launched it. We've launched our headless website as of about 2 weeks ago. Looks like it's going to stick this time. The headless framework gives us the ability to do more things without the expense of speed, like had been true of Shopify's liquid environment, right? So now that we have headless, we're debugging it. We're going to be optimizing it, see how fast we can make it go. We're going to do some trickery to offload some of the third-party scripts that load and pull data in remotely, like reviews and those types of things. Once we have that issue solved, we will be going back and adding some new functionality that we're anxious to add in, like some guided shopping experiences, like AI personalization, like subscription, and some other things. So those are pending. We expect we'll have a lot of that functionality live to improve our website experience here in the next, I would guess, 6 to 9 months. We should have quite a bit done, but it's kind of our, at least in the marketing department, providing a consistently improving user experience, making it easier to buy seed and find the seed that you want, or find out what you should want if you don't know what you want, right? That's kind of a challenge in gardening. We have close to 300 varieties of tomatoes. Well, if you're an experienced gardener, you may know exactly what you want. If you're new to gardening, you come in and say, what tomato should I grow? Or which 2 or 3 tomatoes are the best choices for me? So we're doing things to try to help resolve that and provide a better customer experience. And that's part of what we're really trying to focus on.
And I guess without that, all of those queries would go to your phone lines, right? So if somebody doesn't know which kind of seed they want or which kind of tomato variety they want, I would assume they would call your phone lines to ask that. So
correct. And our phones, especially now during the spring season, this is our busy season. Our phones ring so much that sometimes we're not able to answer every call that we would want to answer. So yeah, we're trying to make the e-commerce portion of the experience a much more educational, self-serve experience. Not that we won't have phones available, we always will, right? Anybody has a question, we're at their service. But it's tricky. Gardening is something that a novice who's never done it before can do, and somebody who's been doing it for 20 or 30 or 40 years is still learning more about how to do it better, right? And it's a challenge.
So headless is really, you have basically the Shopify backend, and then you're using your own language of choice to create the front end. Is that the idea?
Yeah, and I don't want to give the impression that I'm on the technical side of e-commerce, right? I'm much more on the marketing and promotion side of e-commerce. We have in-house developers and an IT department that does a lot of the fancy stuff. So I'll give you, I think, 2 minutes and tell you everything I know about headless, right? Which I can fit into 2 minutes. I think the concept of headless is the idea that you are separating the front end from the back end, right? So you have a very light, nimble front end framework, and then headless e-commerce injects content into that framework and separates the back end data from the front end data, which for some magical reason allows for a much, much faster website experience, right? I think it's the idea that, you know, the first time you hit a site, it probably loads in about the same amount of time that any old website would do. But when you navigate to a second page, a lot of that content is already pulled in, and all it's got to do is pull like text, which happens very quickly. So theoretically, headless e-commerce is a lot more nimble and a lot faster a framework than other e-commerce platforms. And then the other idea is, because of that headless environment, you can do some customization that historically has been very difficult or maybe even impossible to do within the Shopify old-fashioned, you know, the liquid environment that they had. Now, that being said, Shopify does have a headless framework. They call it hydrogen and oxygen for the front end and the back end. And it's basically a slightly modified version of the React programming language. And that's everything I know about it.
Okay, no, that's very clear. I mean, I think that's how much I knew about it also, and so that's great to confirm. Given that you are primarily a marketer, can you share a little bit about competition? Are there a lot of other businesses out there in e-commerce channel that are selling similar kind of products? Because I'm assuming, you know, anybody who can go buy seeds, they can put seeds on a website and start selling. So if that is correct, then what is your value proposition? Does it really, at the end of the day, come down to who has the most amount of marketing dollars to drive, traffic, who has the fastest website speeds, who has the best customer service? What separates your business as opposed to any other competitor selling similar kind of product?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have competitors online. We have arguably hundreds to potentially thousands, depending on how you look at it, right? So we have a whole army of competitors who sell, for example, on Amazon, but don't sell outside of Amazon. And we have a presence in Amazon. It's a small minority of our business, as are other third-party channels like eBay and Etsy and Walmart. But that being said, you know, if you look on Amazon, we have a very large number of competitors that sell against us on Amazon. Now, am I worried too much about those competitors? No, a lot of those competitors actually buy seed from us. So yes, they're competitors, but in a certain sense, they're also customers. And so I'm not too worried. You know, the way I look at it is, rather than trying to beat my competitors, I'd rather work cooperatively with my competitors to spread kind of the gospel of growing, right? The more competitors that we have in the marketplace, the more the message of gardening and the joy of growing your own things and your own food can get out. So I think the number of competitors that we have is growing the marketplace. And while we have some competitors that I don't think do necessarily an awesome job taking care of their customers, we have competitors that are amazingly good and are an honor to compete against. And frankly, it's the majority of them in the home garden seed industry. Now, that being said, we do try to continually improve and provide a great customer service experience. We try to be competitive price-wise. We try to provide a fun and a fast and an easy and an educational approach to buying seeds. a lot of our competitors do as well and do a great job at that. And then, I like to think we bring an e-commerce mindset to the seed industry, right? The seed industry is as old as you can imagine. It dates back to the founding of the country. There were seed companies around in the early 1800s. And you can find old seed catalogs that date back to the, 1820s. So it's a very old established industry. That being said, we like to think we bring a kind of a modern e-commerce approach to it. So we focus on fast shipping. We are very aggressive about testing our seed for germination and other quality factors, and try to make sure that the quality of seed that we offer is first class always. So we're doing those things. But again, we've got some world-class competitors that we compete against too. And, the fact that our competitors are so good forces us to continually try to be as good or better. So it's very much kind of a family industry, I would say. Not that everybody's related. That's not what I mean. But, people in the industry aren't angry at each other, and we're not suing each other, and we're not, bad mouthing each other. It's kind of nice and refreshing. Right. But I'm grateful for our competitors that are going out and helping to convert more people to the concept of growing and gardening. That for me is a huge plus that outweighs any negatives for how many competitors we have. And we have a lot.
Now, in terms of your customer base, and you talked about this idea of spreading the idea of growing your own food and things like this. Who is your ideal target customer, and what kind of trend have you seen over the last decade or two? Are there more people who are looking to, have a home garden, or how is the world changing based? You definitely have a unique perspective in this field. So
it's a great question. When I look at most of our competitors, we have tons of competitors that overlap a portion of our business, right? So we have a big presence in home gardening, right? Selling seed packets to people who are growing, tomatoes and corn and squash in their backyard. And we have a lot of competitors that are dedicated to serving that part of the market. But we also sell to indoor growers, right? We sell sprouting supplies and growing kits and sprouting seeds. We sell microgreens growing supplies and seeds. And we sell those to both the professional growing market and the home growing market. We have gift items that help people get started in the process of growing their own things, right? So, we have very few competitors that overlap us 100%, but we have hundreds of competitors that overlap a portion of our business, some of them a big portion, some of them a small portion. So it's that kind of thing, right? So we have a lot of different markets that we go after. But I mean, if you had to really break them down, we've got indoor growers and outdoor growers, and we've got hobbyist growers and professional growers, right? So that creates kind of 4 quadrants, and we try to market to those 4 quadrants, I guess, in a customized manner, right? Remind me the question again. I want to make sure that I got
the other question was, is there a trend in the market? Do you see
the trend? Yeah. So the trend, right, has been COVID really changed the market pretty substantially, right? When COVID hit in kind of mid-March of 2020, garden seeds got very, very popular very, very quickly. It was spring. You had a lot of people that were on lockdown and weren't going into work and needed things to keep them occupied. And for a lot of people, gardening was the answer, whether it was indoor or outdoor, whatever it was. So the whole entire garden seed industry had kind of a boom there in 2020. And since then, it's been a little bit of a challenge because that huge surge of demand in 2020 created some supply chain problems, some other issues that have been common for a lot of businesses. And, certainly the seed business wasn't immune to that, but we had our own particular problems, right? Because in the seed business, there's only so much garden seed that's grown this year for the market next year. And when all that's sold out, well, there's nothing more, and it takes years to ramp back up. So that's kind of where we're at. So it's been a challenge with supply chains. And as you might expect, right, the surge of interest in gardening for COVID has leveled out a bit. And we have tried to maintain and capitalize on our growth by being more aggressive about marketing and advertising and increasing our ad spend. And so we've largely been able to maintain the growth that we had during COVID and maybe add to it a little bit. But that's been a challenge, right? I think we're in the decline phase of the post boom, right?
Okay.
So, but I think because of COVID, a whole bunch of people got interested in gardening that otherwise may not have been interested before. So that's one trend. Another trend that we're seeing is, according to some of the statistical data provided by the like the Home Garden Seed Association and the American Seed Trade Association, other associations in the industry that we participate in, some of the data indicates that still most people who are buying seed for home garden are buying from traditional brick and mortar retail sources, whether it's hardware superstores like Home Depot or Lowe's, or chain stores like Walmart or Target, or local hardware stores. They're still buying packets off of that seed rack to the tune of probably 96% of people buy their garden seed that way. So we are serving a very small market in terms of the number of people buying seeds online. And that trend appears to be, over time, more and more people are buying seeds online, right? It would be our contention that from the right company, you have a better experience buying seeds online than you have buying seeds, picking them from a packet, right, off of a rack in a store. If you're an experienced gardener, probably 6s. If you're a novice or a new gardener, I mean, what judgment are you using to pick what seed you want to grow? It's probably the picture on the front of the deal. And there's only so much information you can print on the back of a paper packet that tells you what the characteristics of this particular variety are versus other options, where we have much more room and again, some guided shopping wizards and some other things that we use to help people find the answers to questions that you just can't fit on a 3-inch by 4-inch packet, right? So our argument would be that it's a much better experience buying seeds online than it is buying from a brick and mortar rack. That being said, kind of our future growth is predicated on the idea that more and more people will come to realize that, and that buying online is a fundamentally better experience than buying in a brick and mortar retailer. The selection for sure is 10 times.
Definitely. And I guess that also means that if you have a customer, and I'm assuming, someone who's growing these plants, they would need seeds again and again, right? So if a customer has once purchased from your store, and for the next season when they need the seeds, and they've had good experience and they've got good results out of the seeds that they've purchased from you, then they would likely come back to your store to buy it.
That's a statistic we're particularly proud of. If we track our repeat customer rate, our repeat customer rate is exceptional. And I think for about the past 4 years, every single month on a year-over-year basis has been an improvement or significant growth in the number of repeat customers that we have. So, that I think speaks to the quality of our experience, the quality of our customer service, the quality of the education that we help to provide to customers, the quality of the seed, the speed of the shipping, the price competitiveness, et cetera. So that for us really is the most important metric. right? If we get a customer today, there's a high probability that that customer will buy from us again in the future, right? And we have customers that have placed, dozens to hundreds of orders with us over the years, and we are so grateful for those repeat customers. And that's really what we're trying to do, is turn a first-time buyer into a lifetime customer.
Can you talk a little bit about your warehousing and fulfillment? I know you mentioned that you do, a part of your strategy is quick, fast shipment. I'm assuming given the number of seeds, you have a large number of SKUs. What kind of warehousing do you do? And in terms of fulfillment, like, do you package your seeds into small packets that people, that's easy to retrieve and just ship it out? Or is it kind of like someone orders a certain amount so that it has to be weighed and, packaged and things like that? And are you shipping only in US, Canada, worldwide? What is your biggest market?
Yeah, great question. So when in 2014, when Living Whole Foods and Mountain Valley Seed merged, I think combined, we had separate warehouses, and I think maybe we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 square feet total. And we built our products, we packaged them, we have seed handling machinery and cleaning equipment and all the stuff that a traditional seed company would have. And we do all the bagging, all the packaging, all the quality testing, all of the storage of seeds in our own warehouse. So when we merged, we moved into a much larger warehouse, roughly 75,000 square feet. At the time, I thought we were completely nuts and that we would never fill that. And we've since acquired the back half of the building that we're in, and we're now in about 150,000 square feet of total space. And we warehouse our own seed, and that does not include our facility in California. We have a cleaning warehouse and a storage warehouse in California also that adds probably another 20,000, 25,000 square feet. So yeah, all the seed is warehoused by us. We process it, we test it, we bag it, we packet it, and it's our brand, and we pack it, we pick it, we pack it, and we ship it every day. So we definitely do that. Now, in terms of international sales, we do have a decent amount of international sales, but as you might imagine, shipping seeds internationally is tricky because most countries have very stringent requirements about what types of seed and agricultural product they will allow into the country and under what conditions. So that varies from country to country. So we have an international desk where anytime we have international inquiries or international orders, that those orders are vetted by our international team so that when they ship legally to those countries and don't end up, being destroyed at customs or port of entry or whatever it might be. So it's not as easy to ship seeds internationally, especially in small quantities, because sometimes countries will require, very expensive testing, and that expensive testing amortizes very nicely over a large order of seeds, but over a small order of seeds, it makes it price non-competitive, right? Along with the shipping costs and everything else. So we do have an international component. It's tricky. So most of our business is domestic United States. The largest country that we ship to outside the United States is Canada. Canada does have very stringent regulations, but we know those very well, and we've gotten really good at making sure that we're following all of Canada's regulations for the importation of seeds. So Canada is probably half our international business.
Okay. Now, I know we are kind of running out of time. Do you have additional 5-7 minutes to go? Or okay.
You bet.
So I'll try to end this. I know I ask this question to every entrepreneur. There's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. In this business, through all the years that you've been part of it, running it, what has been a big mistake or a failure that you can remember, and you were like, you're like, okay, that was a big mistake. I could have done without. What did you learn from it, and what can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, so only one mistake. That's going to be hard to narrow down. Got a whole bunch of great ones to pick from, right? I would say that if I had things to do a little bit differently, we've acquired a couple of our competitors over the years, and the process of assimilating a competitor's business into your own business is, however hard you think that's going to be, however much time and effort you think it's going to be, however much organization you do to try to make sure that's nailed down exactly, it's roughly 20 times more difficult than you think it's going to be, right? So on some of those, and don't get me wrong, those have worked out well for us, but they could have gone so much smoother and so much better. So yeah, acquiring a business and integrating it into our own company, that's a very difficult, time-consuming process, and to some degree, it's a very large distraction. The other thing that I kind of wish we would have done is been more aggressive earlier on. We were kind of tentative with growth and with our marketing budgets, and COVID really gave us an opportunity to, when COVID started slowing down and the order volume started to, drop off the cliff, we decided at that point we would try and experiment and really put the hammer down on marketing and advertising. And that paid off in a wonderful way. And the big regret that I have is, man, we could have and should have done that a lot earlier, and we'd be in a lot better shape today than where we were. That being said, it's sometimes difficult to for the operation side of the business to keep up with the marketing side of the business, right? So, you can't get too far ahead of yourself and not take good care of customers, because, in the modern e-commerce era, operations is marketing. If you do a bad job taking care of customers, it makes it very hard for you to get new customers with reviews and online information that's available, etc. So making sure that your marketing doesn't outpace your operational growth is very important. And I'm blessed to have partners that are very, very good at running operations. So that's huge for us.
Awesome. Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire segment. And in this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, and you have to answer them maybe in one or two words or a sentence or so.
You
So
bet.
the first question is one book recommendation that you would make to other entrepreneurs, and why?
Scaling Up by Verne Harnish. It is the most dense book on how to scale a business that I have ever seen. There's no fluff. It's all crunch.
Awesome. An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
I really like some of our kind of competitors that are doing indoor growing garden towers. That's not a space that we're in. I'd love to find a good one to partner with, but I'm really fascinated by that approach to indoor growing.
Awesome. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
You know what? We made the switch to Microsoft Teams about a year and a half ago, and it has been massively helpful for our company.
And I think now they're about to integrate AI into that also. So hopefully that's going to bring
I'm
some.
not sure what that looks like, but if they can make it better, I'm all for it.
Yeah. A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd have to think on that. I cannot remember the name of the company, but there's a company that's selling handmade crafts from Central American merchants. They started out with little bracelets. For the life of me, cannot remember the name of the company. I apologize to them, but they have done some pretty amazing things with their ambassador program. I'm impressed and jealous.
I think is this company created by like younger guys, a group of younger guys? I think
I can't remember the name of the company. It's right at the tip of my tongue. I can't remember, but really, really, they built their entire e-commerce business on ambassador program. And
yeah, I think they're pretty big also. Like they're
big,
doing
yeah.
Yeah.
They're on Shopify, and they're amazing what they've done. Really, truly amazing.
Yeah. A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I try to associate with, a couple of mastermind groups and a couple of kind of informal groups of local e-commerce folks. And, it's the collective consciousness. There's no one person that I say has done amazing things. Every time I go into one of those groups and we have a brainstorming session, or, hey, what's been working for you? I always come out with ideas to try. So I would recommend maybe that, right, is associating with other smart people that are doing what you're doing, maybe not in your industry, but from the marketing point of view, that's been super helpful for me.
Awesome. Last question, best business advice you ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Probably I'll give you two. They both came from my dad. Number one is you can't sell from an empty wagon, right? If you don't have it in stock, hard to make things work, because you can't take care of customers, you can't ship on time, you can't do things. So having our supply chain being run at its absolute maximum efficiency is hugely important to us. And again, I'm blessed with a partner that oversees our supply chain, two partners actually that oversee our supply chain, do a wonderful job. But the recent supply chain problems that have been a consequence of the pandemic have made things very difficult, right? So have it in stock. And number two is if you're doing sales and a customer says yes, it's time to shut up.
That's key.
Yep.
Well, before I end, I definitely want to ask you this. I mean, have you played with ChatGPT? What do you think about AI? Do you have any thoughts on what's coming?
I have used ChatGPT mostly for research. I know our IT department is using it to write simple segments of code for them. And our content department is using ChatGPT to kind of create the core of some blog posts and articles. And then, of course, we heavily edit those. But I'm encouraging them to take a look at that and make sure that we have our personalized stamp and approach to it, and that we're verifying the information that we're getting from it. But so far, we're using it probably not as aggressively as we should. But so far, it appears to be a productivity boost to us for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting tool, and we'll see what comes out of it. Well, Parker, thank you so much. That was a great discussion. Nice, really great chatting with you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing a lot of your insights about the industry, about e-commerce, about marketing. So yeah, thank you again very much. If anybody wants to look into your products, what is the best way they can do that?
Yeah, so we're online at trueleafmarket.com, TRUELEAF market.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Parker, again. Really, really appreciate your time. And thanks again for joining me today at Trep Talks.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.